Good evening, everyone. This is Kenya, once again, coming to you guys with my second part to my testimony. I figured today would be a good day to get it out while my kids are sleeping. And I did not feel like getting dressed, putting anything on. I decided to stay in my PJs today because it's a snowy afternoon and I felt like being warm and comfy. But in urgency, I felt as though I still needed to get this out, so I wasn't going to skip another week and not get the second part of my testimony out. So here goes. I'm going to go ahead and start where I left off. Okay. After the death of their grandfather, things started spiraling. More arguments and fights all over the house. Everybody was in their feelings about the death of my foster father, which is their grandfather. It seems like every time my boyfriend at that time was under stress, he would molest the girls. And he had more advantages to do that because of his grandmother and her grieving process. So I remember one time I was going downstairs to get something to eat or perhaps drink, and I saw the 12-year-old sneaking out of the front room while it was pitch black. Now, the way our house was made, I believe it's called a colonial. All of the rooms were upstairs. So if everybody upstairs in their room and you're downstairs in a dark room coming out while you thinking I'm going in the kitchen, that screams suspect. So in my spirit, I said, you know what? Let me just peek in here and see what's going on. So I did. I peeked in the room, and yeah, what I saw was was that he was in the dark room, standing up in the corner, trying to hide. So I didn't say anything. I shook my head and I walked upstairs. At this time, I started asking the girls what were they doing with him. Like, what are you guys doing when you are alone with him? But they would never tell. They seemed like they were scared, but then they seemed like they wasn't. So I can't even say they were scared, but whatever he told them, if he bribed them, whatever, they was never going to break that secrecy with me. Never. I started asking the girls over and over, and they just would not tell. I don't know. So anyways, he started becoming more and more controlling and abusive towards me. It had gotten so bad that my foster mom said, leave that girl alone. Find another girlfriend. So at that time, she knew that we were together, and she just was like, you know what, there's nothing I can do. Y'all gonna still continue to like each other and call each other boyfriend and girlfriend. Okay, well, let me set some ground rules. We're not going to tell anyone at the agency that you are together, but this will be, our house secret. And you can't tell anyone. And if you don't, then you can continue this relationship. But if you do, of course, the relationship would end. So we agreed, and we decided that we would never tell. But he started just becoming mean and abusive more and more to me. More and more to me. So once she told him, just find another girlfriend, he was like, okay. So I started liking other girls at the school, and I started liking other boys at the school, and I would give them my number. And every time they would call, he would hang up on them. One day, we were outside down the street, just talking, playing. It was me and the older girls. It was like one time where we were able to get along, and we all outside just joking and playing, and the car pulls up, and these guys are in the car trying to talk to us. So at this time, I'm like, I'm about to make him jealous, because I just felt like I wanted to make him jealous. You know, young crap that we do. So I start talking back to them. And when I was talking back to them, he started fighting me, literally in front of them. So the car pulled off, and we were just fighting. And my foster sister at the time ran and got into the car. And when she got into the car, she waved for me to get in the car. So she waved for me to get in the car, and I jumped in the car to get away from him, and then she locked the door. So he was yelling at her, like, let her out the car, let her out the car, and if you don't, I'm going to hit you. She was like, well, you just going to be hitting me then, because I'm not letting her out. So, she intervened that time, and he decided to leave me alone, and he walked away. Eventually, he ended up getting a girlfriend. And the girlfriend was keeping him away from me because they was hanging out all the time. And that was cool to me because the relationship became a burden. A definite burden to me. Definitely. So that was fine. I was happy to get away from him. So I started making more friends at school, and I had one best friend who I was able to confide in. But I was always careful not to spill too much of the beans. Okay? I didn't want to invite her into what my chaos was. So I just chose to be very wise about what I said to her. So we really just never spoke into detail. Like, I always was going around things just to get a somewhat of an escape, just a listening ear. Because at that time I was getting picked on real heavily at school, and she just was able to be there. She was my listening ear. So back at home, my foster sister started to gain my trust because she took up for me that day. So I began to tell her about the bullying that I suffered from in school. And the type of person I was, I did not speak up for myself. So I just used to let that happen, just to let the bullying continue, because I just didn't want to say anything. So I just did what I did. She was younger than me, but she always played the older role. And she would write letters to my bullies so that they would leave me alone. She would threaten to beat them up. And I definitely delivered those letters. Crazy, man. Crazy stuff right here. So yeah, she used to just tell them, like, if you talk to her again, or if you do this, do that, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And yeah, she's serious, because she treated me like her little sister, and I was okay with that. It's weird. So anyway, at this time, my aunt would check in on me every now and again, and it's like she found out that me and my foster sister was very, very close. And on one of our weekly visits, my counselor asked me one day, are you going to miss your sister and your friends when you go live with your aunt? Because at this time, my aunt was still in the process of getting me back. So she was going through classes, I believe, at that time. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to miss my friend. I'm going to miss my sisters. I love them. Like, we became cool. Like, why wouldn't I? So I answered it casually, not thinking nothing about it. And, yeah, I said, yes, I'm going to miss her. Next thing I know, my aunt had stopped the process of getting me, and she blamed it on me and my sister's relationship. She said that she didn't want me to miss my friend too much. And then she turned around and adopted all my siblings and left me out there. Yes, she did. So once again, my heart was crushed, because I still had hope of escaping all of this foolery, because I knew one day my aunt was supposed to come get me. But now that was taken away, because My aunt did not like the fact that I said I was gonna miss my friend and my sister. So to me, that was the overlay for the underplay, because after all that I did, she used something so small against me so that she could go back on her word. So after that, I just grew up more. You know what I mean? Like, I just kept growing. I kept living, basically. Life went on, and I grew up. So at 17, hell hit the fan. I kept seeing my ex coming in and out of the girl's room more and more, and I was actually growing more and more disgusted and annoyed. I asked my sister, my foster sister, would she tell with me? But she said she would never tell. She said she would never tell. She said because they would never listen to us. So what was the point? So anyway, I ended up telling his sister, and I don't know why. That had to be the dumbest thing I ever did, but I told his sister. Okay? Silly of me. So she told my grandma, but she knew that this was true. I found out later on she knew it was true, and she just didn't want to believe it at the time. So one day I left. I don't know where I went. I don't know if I was coming from one of my meetings or what, but I left. When I came back, everyone was in my room waiting on me. They started yelling and calling me a liar and saying that I wanted to disrupt their family and that I still loved and cared for her grandson. And that's why I was doing this, to break up their family. And I'm like, how you feel like that? Like, where you get that from? But if anything, I'm worried about these children that's up in here. And this is absolutely weird. The whole vibe is so disgusting. Like, how everybody acting like they don't know what's going on when they know. So I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, whatever. And then my foster mom said to me, like, I should have known you would have done this to me because you did it to your own mother. You told on your own mother. That's why your aunt doesn't even want you. She then flung at me, and out of anger, I swung back at her. I then saw her grandson, and he started to, like, call me out, my name and stuff, start calling me all kind of B words and stuff like that. And it was a hot mess. Things probably would have got really, really ugly if her two sons, and these are my foster mom's real sons, if they didn't jump in when they were old and break this up. Because at that time, her daughters was ready to fight me. They was ready. And she was going to hit me too. I think she had something in her hand, like she was about to bop me in the head or something. But anyway, her son saved the day. And then me, I'm thinking to myself, she right, don't nobody want me. So it's like anger just rising and resentment and hatred is rising in me. I'm like, dang, I'm all alone. And then I became a ticking time bomb. Yeah. So anyway, one day, one of the new girls came into my room, and she told me that she saw something suspicious going on with the now 8-year-old. Now, mind you, at this time, this girl had started her period. Okay. So she asked me if I had seen anything, and I told her exactly what I saw. So we made a plan to tell the agency on my next visit, and that's exactly what we did. We played like everything was normal, and we told. They did not let us go back home because the house was under investigation. But then I was unfortunately and urgently shipped to a new home. So, yeah, I ended up going somewhere else at that time, and things got even more crazy, guys. So please, come back and listen to part 3. I didn't want to make it 30 minutes today. Like I said, my kids are sleeping. I don't want them to be woke and running and jumping in front of fear. And I'll see you guys at that time. I love you. We got to learn how to forgive. Even though things are so evil, the world can be so evil, but please don't come down the path that I did. And to all the young kids out there, if you're in foster care, I understand where you're coming from. I feel you. Because nobody knows what goes on in your mind. Nobody gets us. We're orphans, basically. And people just treat us any kind of way. Even though I was in a good home on the outside, but in the inside, it was a horrible experience. Not just for me, but for all the other ones that was in the house. That part is hard for me to talk about with the molestation, because I still feel bad, because I feel like I should have been said something. I waited like 6 months to a year to say anything, because I